Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's Thursday. Gotta have a terrific time on Thursday. Thursday was the day I was born, did you know that? Because it's my second favourite time of the week. It's time to talk about AEW Dynamite Graded. How good was the show? There's only one way to find out, and that is by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, I've already said it. It's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. We start things off with a World Tag Team title match between the champions Kenny Omega and Hangman Page and those cheeky English scamps Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. It's coming home, it's coming. Come on England, right, so anyway, basically Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian start off the match by just flicking the V's at Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, which I doubt the Americans know what that means, or Canadians as well. Kenny Omega's Canadian. They're probably like, oh, they're wishing us peace, and it doesn't mean, any American viewers out there, doesn't mean peace. It's a little bit rude. In the early stages of the match, we see FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood sat just miles away in the crowd, like so far away. Clearly nobody likes them. Although, watching their interview later on, which I'll discuss in a little while on this video, it could be because they don't like anybody else. They came across as very cocky later on. At one point, the referee is distracted, so Penelope Ford gets in the ring and tries a jumping Hurricane Rana off the top rope, but Hangman catches her and waits, and the referee turns around and sees her. Hangman drops her, and the ref ejects her. Excellent officiating. Or is it? Because as Penelope Ford kicks up a fuss while she leaves, the referee is distracted. Jimmy Havoc gets in the ring with a wrench, or a spanner as we call it in the UK, and just decks the baby faces with it. They should be like dead by now, surely. They've been hit in the head with a wrench. But no, it's only good enough for a 2 count. Hangman gets the shoulder up just in time, and the baby faces gradually make their comeback. Clearly being hit in the head with solid heavy metal has kind of just jolted them back into life, which is nice to see. Kip Sabian's in trouble. He flips out of a suplex attempt and goes to tag in Jimmy Havoc, but he's not in the corner. And everyone's like, where's Havoc gone? Hangman hits the ropes, and Havoc's there on the other side of the apron, about to take his head off with a hacksaw that he's just found somewhere. It's very on brand for Jimmy Havoc, I guess, but also you've got to say that's a strange tactic in a title match, in full view of the referee. A few minutes later, and because there's no more weapons left, I guess, the heels are out of ideas, and the babyfaces hit their big double team finisher, the lariat into the V-trigger combo thing, me in the middle, and that's enough to retain the titles. I'm going to give this a B grade, decent action, but not my favourite match on the show in terms of logic. A couple of weird choices here. First of all, the choice of Jimmy Havoc to involve a hacksaw in the match, despite being in full view of the referee and it being a title match. That was a weird one, Jim. And also, the decision of whoever put this match together to have the wrench hitting spot be the signal for the start of the babyface's comeback. They've just been hitting like the base of the skull with a wrench. Am I taking that too serious? I've never been hit by a wrench, so maybe it's not that bad at all, although I have seen Dodgeball, and that makes it look quite painful. Just a little segment in between this and the next one, which is too short to give a grade to, but it's worth mentioning. Shawn Spears is in the back of a vehicle. Tully Blanchard gets in and tries to give him a bit of a pep talk. He absolutely tore into him recently for that just awful performance against Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing, and Spears kind of stood and took it, almost on the verge of tears. He was so disappointed in himself. But Blanchard, right, he's already given him the stick, now it's time to dangle the carrot. Lot of dirty innuendo there, isn't there? The carrot in this case is a black leather fingerless glove, which he opens from like a lovely box and presents to Shawn Spears. Spears puts it on and he's like, okay, now here we go, this is the start of something new. Now I saw a lot of confusion on social media about this, and I saw people trying to explain it as well, which was very nice of them, explaining to kind of younger or less familiar fans what this was all about. Basically, in the sort of territory days in the 80s, the black fingerless glove was worn by various different heels. Barry Windham, Blackjack Mulligan. It's a sign of, like, I guess just evilness and power. I think it's a southern thing. I think it was kind of mid-south / mid-Atlantic sort of area, and I think it just meant this is a nasty person, don't trust him. But the problem is that they didn't really make that clear enough on the show itself, and I think they probably should have done, and hopefully they will address that in the weeks to come. Next up, Brian Cage taking on Shawn Dean, who just gets absolutely squashed, of course, because he is more of an enhancement guy. And yeah, Brian Cage hits him with the drill claw, and that's enough for the three. We're about a minute in. Taz gets in the ring and grabs a mic and calls out Jon Moxley and says, why were you so disrespectful last week? Why were you giggling at me when I was warning you about the power and the unbeatableness, he doesn't use that word, but you know, you get the gist of it, of my boy Brian Cage. Then he does the whole, you know, beat him if you can, survive if he lets you. Moxley's music hits and he interrupts them. You can't be interrupting a member of Aces and Eights like that, Moxley. You're gonna get your head kicked in by Bully Ray. Moxley comes through the crowd, he gets in the ring. Taz is like, just before you get all the way in the ring, just think about what you're doing here. And Moxley goes, yep. Yeah, all right, just gets in the ring anyway. Moxley gets on the mic now and says, I wasn't mocking you when I was smiling last week. I was smiling because I'm excited to face a challenge like Brian Cage. He's such a babyface. But he also injects the promo with that Moxley grit, saying, you know what? I know that Brian Cage is impressive. You look very impressive. You're nigh on indestructible. And God, I know that I am not indestructible, but I am an entirely different thing. He also says, if you want to take this title from me, that is a whole different sort of task. And he says, don't even waste your time trying to intimidate me, and just as fearless as ever, Moxley just gets out the ring and saunters away. Not a lot more to say about this segment. B+ is the grade. Good squash, good promo. Looking forward to the match. Now a couple of little bits and pieces, little pre-taped backstagey things, which again are too short to grade, but probably worth mentioning for other storylines that weren't the center point of this show. First of all, Alex Marvez is just walking around some bit of wasteland next to an overpass, which is lovely to see. He finds Lance Archer, who's just beating up a random luchador. Jake the Snake Roberts is there trying to calm Archer down. Marvez is like, we found him, guys, we found him, and he goes over, and predictably, Lance Archer just grabs him straight away by the scruff of the neck. You're Alex Marvez, what are you doing? Archer says, do you think that one loss is going to really affect me? I came here to be a monster, and when I say everybody dies, everybody dies. And he storms off. And Jay the Snake Roberts, surprisingly, is like, I'm sorry about that, Alex. I don't know what that was about, which is really interesting. Does this mean that since he's lost that match against Cody, Archer has just gone completely off the rails, and even Jake is now afraid of him and trying to control him and failing to do so? I mean, I'm excited to see where this goes. And then next up, we get Matt Hardy meeting with Private Party in their private bar area backstage, and he praises them and says, you guys are the future of tag team wrestling. Obviously, Private Party are very excited to hear this. They suggest a tag team, or a trio, I guess, between them all called the Hardy Party, and Matt kind of laughs it off and says, hit me up if you need anything, and leaves. On the way out, he passes Sammy Guevara on his little scooter and says, Sammy, we're good, and just walks off. And Sammy and myself watching it are both very surprised at this. What was that about? Next up, we get Chrissy J versus Colt C in a match set up by last week's ending of the show. We see in a little backstage bit that Jericho blames Colt Cabana for stopping him from knocking out Tyson. It's one of those classic, like, I was just about to punch him until you dragged me away. He's lying. Jericho's entrance is very entertaining because Sammy sings him to the ring and has somehow gotten worse since last time he did this. And Colt Cabana, despite being the heavy underdog here, actually starts off the match very hot indeed. He avoids interference from Jake Hager on the outside, hops up to the apron, and hits a lovely springboard moonsault onto both Jericho and Hager below. He throws Jericho back in the ring, but then when the ref's back's turned, Hager does get a bit of interference in and turns the tables. But Cabana, after a little while, fires up and starts hitting his offense. He's hitting little jabs, he's hitting the big elbow, he goes for the big Superman dive into that lovely pinning predicament, but Jericho pulls his own legs down, rolls over, and cinches in the walls of Jericho. It's a beautiful counter. Cabana, though, reaches the ropes. Jericho thinks he's won. He's a stupid idiot. Cabana fires up once again and then runs straight into a Judas Effect back elbow. And after a pretty competitive match, to be fair, Jericho picks up the win. Jericho gets on the mic afterwards and says, right, I want the baddest man on the planet right here, right now. Get him out here right now. Ask and you shall receive. Here comes Orange Cassidy. Cassidy gets in the ring and mockingly puts Jericho's hands inside his own belt, like how Orange puts his hands in his pockets, and they stand there for a bit and Jericho's just like, what are you doing? The heels jump Orange Cassidy, he evades them, rolls outside the ring, and Chuck and Trent on the outside lift him over the crowd barrier and stare the Inner Circle down. Could this be the beginnings of a new feud? This gets a B+ grade. I really enjoyed the match, and I thought the post-match stuff was interesting. I'm not quite sure why it's Orange Cassidy, but I suppose he's been getting under the Inner Circle's skin a little bit recently. It could lead to a bit of a feud between the Inner Circle and the Best Friends, although I think that might just be a little mini feud, a bit of a filler feud, until the Best Friends face Hangman and Omega at Fyter Fest. Next up, we get a training montage with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. She's undergoing her physical therapy to recover from her injury, and it's so hilarious. It seems to be at the Jaguars training facility. She's like towing weights around with her wheelchair. She's lifting very light weights. It's so heelish and so self-aggrandizing in the most hilarious, ironic way. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's one of the funniest bits of the show. The best bit's probably when she's rolling her wheelchair up this very slight incline, and you've got Reba there, and you've got the trainer beckoning her on, going, come on, you can do it. And it cuts back to her going, yeah, I can, in slow motion, of course. Cuts back to them, and then Tony's just there out of nowhere going, come on, you can do it. That absolutely slayed me. And Britt Baker is out to watch the next match. She's in the back of she's in like the bed of a truck in her wheelchair, which Reba is driving. She's backed it up to the ring. Britt has a lovely view of the ring. The match in question is Nyla Rose, the former women's champion, of course, taking on Big Swole. This was a well-structured match. It was the brave babyface taking on the bigger heel and really making a good go of it. Swole really took the fight to Nyla here, may well have won herself a lot of new fans, but unfortunately at one stage just runs straight into a spear. It only gets 2, so Nyla goes for the Beast Bomb. Big Swole rolls through that and gets a 2 count of her own, and then eventually runs into a big sit-out kind of spine buster, and that's enough for Nyla Rose to get the win. Afterwards though, a brave Big Swole is commiserated by Tony Schiavone on the outside. He gives her the mic and she says, I just want to thank all the fans, they've still had my back. Even though I lost the match, I feel like I'm getting better. And she's just immediately cut off by Britt Baker, who heckles her mercilessly from the crowd. Britt commands Reba to back the truck up so that she's right up close to the barricade, and it nearly sends her wheelchair just flying off the back of the truck to the ringside area. But she stops in time. That was so funny. The pair then trash talk each other. Swole is really livid. She gets a steel chair and chases a truck away. The truck drives away with Big Swole looking on with the steel chair, clearly livid that Britt had interrupted her interview. This gets a B grade. The match was good. The post-match was funny, but I don't quite get it. I don't know why Britt Baker is focusing her attention on Big Swole just like a week or 2 after she unveiled this whole conspiracy plan that it was Aubrey's fault and that it was Nyla's fault and Shida and Statlander as well. I don't know why she suddenly just ignored all of that and is now focusing her attention on Big Swole. I guess they were arguing in the past, weren't they? They were feuding a little bit in the past, so that does make a little bit of sense. But I would have liked to have seen that explained more clearly. Next up, the penultimate segment of the night, a sit-down interview with Tony Schiavone in what looks to be the lobby of a Jacksonville Jaguars building. Maybe it's Jaguars HQ, I don't know. Apologies, by the way, to any Americans watching who don't like the way I say Jaguars. I know that it's Jaguars, but we say Jaguars up here in Newcastle, so it's not very pretty. But yes, it's a sit-down interview with Tony Schiavone and FTR, and he asks them, what does FTR stand for? And they say, at this point, they give such a zen, like, rubbish answer. They're like, oh, at the minute, it just stands for anything we want it to, man. No, they don't say it in like a hippie way, but they're like, it stands for anything we want it to. It can be fear the revolution, follow the rules, which doesn't really make sense, but okay. And they say that at the moment, it's just what it is. It's got a life of its own now, Tony. Tony asks them, who do they want to face in the tag team division? And they've got quite a few answers. They've got Private Party, Santana and Ortiz, Butcher and the Blade, Lucha Bros, who they say are the very opposite of themselves, and they want to teach them how to do tag team wrestling properly. They also say the champions, of course, because they want the belts, but they don't count Kenny and Hangman as a real tag team. And then Tony says what we're all thinking, and he's like, there's one name you've missed off there. Why didn't you say the Young Bucks? It's the match we've all wanted to see. And FTR say, that's not a dream match for us. We don't even want to have the best match ever with them. We want to punch them in the mouth, win in 3 seconds, and that's it. It's such a good answer in my opinion, because yeah, of course, why would, you know, the team formerly known as the Revival, who were all about just mechanical efficiency and pragmatism, why would they care about having this big, lovely piece of art match with the Young Bucks when they could just win and take the bigger cut of the paycheck? FTR also say, right, we want to, you know what, we want to prove that we're better, and when we do beat the Young Bucks, then we want you, Tony, and all your commentary buddies to come to us and apologize for all the acclaim that was poured upon the Young Bucks for the past few years. They even say, we're sick of hearing Meltzer sit and shower the Bucks with acclaim. We know we're the best tag team, and when we beat them, we expect everyone to say sorry. The interview ends, and here down the stairs of the building come the Butcher and the Blade to attack them as revenge for last week when, you know, FTR saved the Bucks from a beatdown at the hands of Butcher and Blade, which FTR say, by the way, was so that they can have the Bucks at 100% when they do fight. So there's no excuses, basically. There's about to be a brawl, but people get in the way and pull it apart, and FTR leave and are very cocky about it as well. And a match between the two teams has been set up. This gets an A- grade from me. I absolutely loved it. I love the attitude of FTR here. I really like their points of view. It's explained to me why last week, you know, I had that question about, like, why didn't they just go straight for the Young Bucks? Well, they've justified it fully. Couldn't ask for anything else. Yeah, brilliant promo, loved it. Could have been a little more eventful or a little bit more controversial, but I like their laid back, chilled, very cocky attitude. And finally, the TNT Championship match, the first week of Cody's open challenge. It's Cody, the champion, taking on the winner of the Battle Royal last week, Jungle Boy. The match starts and it is not the match I was expecting to see. I was surprised, but in a good way. It shocked me and I was like, oh, here we go, something interesting's happening here. Because if I had to predict how this match would have started, I would have said, oh, you know, lots of amateur wrestling, smiling, like, oh, you got me, double kip-ups, you know, handshakes. Classic face versus face stuff. What we instead got was Cody being so intense to the point of near heelishness, and it was so genius. It was so well done. Cody's like throwing Jungle Boy into the crowd where Billy Gunn has to catch him. He's setting up the ringside, the timekeeper's table on the outside just in case he needs it later on. He's setting up Jungle Boy against the wall of the stage and going just for a headbutt. He's just going to friggin' headbutt him right in the face. It's not very Cody Rhodes, but it's really captivating. Jungle Boy gets out of the way of that headbutt. Cody hits the wall very hard, big Goldberg energy, and Jungle Boy retreats a little way down the crowd barrier where he gets into an argument with MJF. It seems to be a bit of a distraction, and it is, because when it cuts back to Cody, we see that he is bladed hard. There's quite a lot of blood coming down. Not like peak Attitude Era blood, but still quite a lot for what we're used to seeing in 2020. And now it's Jungle Boy's turn to show a bit of heelish intensity. He goes straight for the cut. He's zeroing in on Cody's weakness. He gets a near fall from an inside cradle. He gets a near fall from a big, uncharacteristic lariat, which sends Cody into like the Rikishi bump. It looks awesome. Cody takes off his belt. He regains control of the match. It looks like he's going to whip Jungle Boy for a second, and he thinks better of it and goes, all right, no. Throws the belt away. Another kind of verging on heel moment for Cody here. They battle up to the top rope and both plummet through the timekeeper's table, which was still set up on the outside. Cody recovers really quickly, even though he was the one who went through the table back first, and I think, you know, by wrestling logic, that's the person who should take the brunt of the move, but he gets up really quickly, actually. It was the one drawback of the match that I didn't quite like. He gets Jungle Boy in the ring. Jungle Boy gets another surprise near fall, but Cody gets the crossroads, absolutely spikes him with it. It's a thunderous crossroads, and that's enough for the win. After the match, Cody's corner all come down on Dustin, Brandy. Here comes Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt to check on Jungle Boy, and it's like a concerned scene, and there's really this sense of, wow, these guys really pushed each other to the absolute limit. That's quite terrifying, because Cody's like gushing with blood. Jungle Boy looks like he might be unconscious. It's really effective. It made it feel very real. And the concerned scene kind of continues until Cody picks up Jungle Boy. They hug each other. They give each other a handshake, and it's all smiles again for now at the end of the show. But what on earth is to come? What was that from Cody? I'm giving this an A-. I wanted to give it an A. Loved it. Loved the story here. The only bit was like the table spot and then Cody just getting straight up out of it was a little bit inconsistent for me. But the rest of it, the whole story they told, I'm really intrigued now. I'm really intrigued where this Cody storyline's going. Is he going to turn heel? What's going to push him to turn heel if he does? And who's he going to turn heel on if indeed that is a possibility? And watch this match if you don't think it's a possibility, because Cody seemed like bit of an arse in this one. Overall, this show gets a B+ grade from me. It was kind of solid and consistent all the way through. The last two segments I really enjoyed, the FTR sit-down interview and the Cody Jungle Boy main event, but on the whole, I think this was just a sort of par for the course show for AEW, and as we've learned on this series, quite a lot of the time when they hit like an average week, that's a B+ in my book. So I'm giving it a B+, definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it, especially that main event. Very interesting stuff as we roll on towards Fyter Fest. So thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. And there's not much more to say. Thanks once again. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.